Hey everyone, what's up? Alright, so I wanted to do this video in the wake of the whole Jessica and Eve situation, as well as a recent video that I watched by the YouTube user Prince of Queens regarding the whole they-them pronouns thing, and oddly enough, watching a Calvin Guerra video recently, I decided that I wanted to come onto here and kind of explain my stance on the whole trans issues as well as the they-them pronouns and why I personally refuse to use them. Now, when it comes to normal trans people, and I can't believe I'm even having to make a distinction at this point, but when it comes to trans people, aka people who have gender dysphoria, okay, because in order to be trans, I'm sorry, but in order to be trans, you have to at least have some type of gender dysphoria. If you have no gender dysphoria, which is, in other words, being in the state of feeling like you're genuinely in the wrong body, like you were born biologically a male, but you honestly feel like that you should be in a female body, not this male body that you have. Basically. So, if you don't have that, then you're not trans, okay? Because trans implies that you're attempting to transition to being a man to a woman, or a woman to a man, whichever way. And for you to call yourself trans and not only not have gender dysphoria, but then not make any attempt to actually transition other than putting on women's clothing and putting on some makeup or cutting your hair short and putting on a bender or whatever those things are called, then you're not trans because you're not trying to actually transition outside of that. You're just a cross-dresser. That's what it is. Like, it would be dishonest to call yourself transgender if you're not actually trying to transition. Okay, so therefore, yes, you do actually have to have gender dysphoria in order to be trans. And if you don't have gender dysphoria and you're not trying to make any attempts to transition, and you're going to tell me that I have to use your pronouns just because, even though you don't have gender dysphoria and you're not trying to transition in any way or don't have any plans at all to transition in any way, fuck you. I don't have to respect your pronouns whatsoever. So, okay, but getting back to the topic, when it comes to, you know, normal trans people, normie trans people, I don't have a problem with them whatsoever. You know, I mean, I got, you know, I've made a friend, you know, I made a friend recently in the group who was trans. Okay, and she shared her experience in the group about, you know, what she's been going through with it and stuff. And I immediately switched, you know, from calling, you know, from calling her, you know, he, him, and her original name to she, her, you know, and her name now. So, like I said, I don't have a problem with those types of trans people, you know, normal trans people who, you know, again, have gender dysphoria and who are trying to transition, or if they can't transition at the moment, they will in the future. And I'll even say this, like, some trans people don't want to get, you know, the snip or whatever, or the you know, the surgery or whatever, as far as like down there goes. They don't want to, I mean, just to be brutally honest, they don't want to get their, you know, dick cut off, or they don't want to have their snatch sewn up or whatever, because it can cause all sorts of things, and so therefore they don't want to do that. And I can understand that, and even with that, I would still, because, I mean, look, when you look at someone like Blair White, for example, okay, who has made videos about this, Blair looks like a female, she sounds like a female, you know, I naturally refer to her as she, her, okay? I mean, you won't notice, you know, to someone just walking down the street who doesn't know who Blair is, they're not going to know that she has something down there, you know, so when it comes to that, I don't really care too much. Again, as long as we're talking about someone who does have gender dysphoria and who has at least made some transitions up to that point. Or like I said, if they can't at the moment, but they will in the future, then okay, that's fine too. Like, as far as that goes, as far as those trans people goes, I don't care. Like, if that's what makes you happy, if that is, then go ahead. I don't care. Like, I will gladly refer to those people as, you know, whatever pronouns or whatever identity they're trying to transition into. Now, when it comes to they, them pronouns, I get really frustrated because there are even anti-SJW channels out there, and I won't name, like, specific names, but there's even anti-SJW channels out there, I mean, who, you know, share the opinion that they think that there are only two genders, okay? They say that they think that there are only two genders, and they fight against leftist and social justice propaganda, right? Because we all know that leftists and social justice warriors don't have a problem with censorship and trying to use authoritarian tactics to get their points across or to push their political ideology. These anti-social justice warrior channels are against that, right? But when they're confronted with a non-binary person, they'll say, oh, well, you know, I don't really believe in it either, but I'll respect their pronouns and I'll call them they, them. No, fuck that. Fuck that. Grow a fucking set, okay? See, here's the thing. It's because of that very reason, and just because, look, I refuse to tone police myself to accommodate a person who has an identity that I don't think is real. I don't think that being non-binary is an actual thing. I think it's nothing more than just calling yourself something. That's it. I mean, if someone can call themselves non-binary, then I guess I can call myself a fucking toad and give myself assigned pronouns as well. You know, I'm not going to tone police myself, and I also feel like if I just roll over and say, okay, fine, I'll use your pronouns, then I may as well be saying, okay, well, I think this is real. I'm just going to appropriate the idea that it is real, that they, them pronouns are valid or whatever, and that non-binary actually exists, okay? Now, look. If there is scientific evidence, if there is a plethora of scientific evidence that comes out in the next few years that proves that non-binary is an actual thing, fine. Okay, fine. I would say probably come up with a better set of pronouns, because referring to a singular person that you already know of as by they, them is just confusing as shit. But if sufficient evidence comes out that this is a real thing, fine. Okay, come up with a new set of pronouns, one, that can refer to singular people in singular pronouns, and cool. Prince of Queens also made a good point, okay? Like, you can use they, them pronouns for a hypothetical person, okay? So, like, if he brought up the name Terry, like Terry as an example, which is a good example because Terry can be applied to really a male or female. It's a gender-neutral name. But it can be applied to male or female. So if you don't know Terry yet, hypothetically Terry, and you refer to them as they, them, or whatever, it makes sense. Like, you're not, like, but when you meet Terry in person, you're not going to call Terry they, them. You're going to either call her, the person she, her, or he, him. One or the other. So in that sense, it would make sense to use the they, them pronouns. Other than that, though, no. Okay, I absolutely refuse to. Okay, and people can bitch at me and call me a bigot and call me transphobic and whatever else. I really don't give a shit. It's funny because I used to consider myself pretty liberal when it came to this issue, but I guess now, maybe I'm not a liberal on this issue. Maybe I'm the most conservative of conservatives now at this point on this issue. Okay, maybe I am. And maybe I'm okay with that at this point, honestly. But no, I refuse to tone police myself. I refuse to appropriate the idea that it's real just by rolling over and saying, okay, fine, I'll use your pronouns, these they, them pronouns. I'm not going to do that. Okay, and I'm definitely not going to use Z and Zer and whatever, all these other fucking ridiculous pronouns that all these far-left social justice warriors have come up with. I'm sorry, but if someone comes up to me and says that they're fucking, you know, otherkin or gender fluid or star gender or whatever, I'm just gonna be like, alright, fuck this shit, I don't want to associate with you, I'm walking away. And that's another thing that Prince of Queens brought up, okay? The video in question was called Boycott They, Them Pronouns, and he didn't mean like boycott in traditional sense, he just meant in the sense that, like, if someone comes up to you and they are asking you or telling you to call them they, them by they, them pronouns, just say basically, I'm not comfortable with this, I want no association with you, and just walk away. And honestly, that's probably what I would do, because as much as I would love to say that I'm the type of person that'll just speak my mind, that I have no filter, that's not true. In person, I am a lot more shyer and much more quiet, and, you know, so if that happened, if I was in that situation, I would just basically do the same thing. I'd be like, look, I'm not comfortable using those pronouns, so I'm just going to skedaddle. And that's probably what I would do. I would just walk away and just put it away. Just put it out of my mind, put it away, leave the situation, walk away. That's probably what I would do. But no, I refuse to use they, them pronouns just because a very, very small group of people wants me to. I'm not going to do that. Especially not in my own videos. The only way I would use they, them pronouns is if I was having like a debate with someone who was non-binary. Like, for the sake of productive conversation, for the sake of civility, civil conversation and productive conversation, I would just be like, okay, fine. Or maybe I would just refer to them by their name. Instead of the they, them pronouns, I would just refer to them by their name. Okay? But, yeah, so those are pretty much my thoughts on the they, them pronouns, as well as clarifying my position on, you know, transgender people in general. Again, if you have gender dysphoria and you are either actively transitioning or making transitions to transition from one gender to the other, or if you don't have the means, because it can be expensive, I know that's true, it can be expensive, if you're actively doing it, or if you're going to at some point, you definitely plan to at some point, then okay, fine, whatever. I will, you know, switch to whatever, to, you know, either male pronouns or female pronouns, because there's two genders. But yeah, I'd gladly do all that and stuff and refer to the person by their newly, you know, crowned name. But when it comes to all these other genders, you can kind of fuck off. I'm not gonna use those pronouns. But that's pretty much it for this one. So, peace, have a good day, and I'll talk to you guys later.